Benilde Cachetta did not need to die in that disaster. Hers was a preventable death. I've come to learn that people with disabilities are, the UN says, 2 to 4 times more likely to be injured or to die in a disaster than people who don't have disabilities. And it's not because of their disability.
20 years of disability rights and inclusion in disaster management, from Katrina to Ida.
August 29th of 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall in Louisiana. A dear friend, Susan Daniels, called me on the day that Katrina was making landfall, and she said Benilde Cachetta had been trying to evacuate from her apartment for 3 days. She was an active community advocate, worked in disability rights, and knew how to navigate systems. She had tried for 3 days to get a paratransit ride to evacuate from her home. She was someone who took the evacuation very seriously. She tried, and paratransit, she kept being scheduled, but nobody showed up. The night before Katrina made landfall, she called 911 and told them she was having chest pains. Susan asked me to help Benilde, also known as Benny. I was on the phone with Benny, as were other people in her life, on and off throughout the day. And try as we might, we were unable to get any help to her because by this point, all of the first responders were locked down, sheltering in place. I mean, that was absolutely the right thing to do, but she needed help. We were on the phone throughout that day, and I saw that the hurricane, as bad as it was, starting to pass. And I said to her, it looks like things are going to start to calm down, and people know you're there, and somebody will surely be there soon to assist you. All of a sudden, Benny said to me, the water is rushing in. At that point, we lost phone contact. Benny did not survive Hurricane Katrina. She drowned, and she was found 5 days later. Her death really rocked me. I kept wondering if there was, something else I could have done. Benilde Cachetta did not need to die in that disaster. Hers was a preventable death. I've come to learn that people with disabilities are far more likely, I think, the UN says 2 to 4 times more likely to be injured or to die in a disaster than people who don't have disabilities. And it's not because of their disability. It's because of all of the systemic bias, the assumptions, all of the beliefs about people with disabilities, and most certainly multiply marginalized people with disabilities. Hurricane Ida came ashore and was devastating to first Louisiana and Gulf states. I had made some very dear friends immediately following Hurricane Katrina. A day before Ida was coming ashore, they contacted me and said, our lift-equipped van broke down and we rented a van, but before we could go and pick it up, we were told that FEMA has taken all of the rental vehicles and we have no way to evacuate. And that began a 24-hour period in which a bunch of people frantically tried to figure out how to help them to get to safety. We worked through the night and into the morning that Hurricane Ida was about to make landfall. Miraculously, they evacuated to the other side of town to a hotel 10 minutes before this Category 4 hurricane made landfall. 10 minutes. I was so scared and devastated that they wouldn't make it on time. And that, once again, exactly 16 years after Vanilda drowned, that they were going to have the same horrible death. I was hugely relieved and very grateful. We learned that a number of nursing homes in Louisiana evacuated, but rather than evacuating folks to another congregate facility, they evacuated almost 900 people from a bunch of nursing homes to a warehouse without adequate staffing, and 4 people died. So, what have I learned? What sort of progress have we made? We've learned that rather than thinking of people with disabilities as being a liability in disasters, that we not only need to be at the table, but we need to serve in leadership roles, because we really are very knowledgeable about anticipating and solving problems in disasters. But I think we've also very sadly learned that we are expendable. We are no more valued now than, in all the years that I've been doing this work. As I look back on 20 years of trying to change outcomes for people with disabilities in disasters. 20 years ago, people with disabilities were disregarded. This week, people with disabilities, things are no better for disabled people in disasters.